Hey there, everybody. My name's Jeff Dalziel. I'll get about talk about me in a second. I just want to say thank you to Long and McQuaid and Focusrite for having me out here tonight, and hopefully I can help you guys navigate some of this. I'm a producer here living in Canada. Um, uh, a lot of history to talk about. Just been lucky enough to have a great career doing this. I was an in-house producer A&R for Sony Music for several years. Since then, I've still been doing a lot of. I'm independent, but I still do work with a lot of labels, a lot of big charting acts in Canada. It's always hard to quickly sum up what I do. Anytime you can, we'll give you links to my website later. You can kind of see all of the stuff I worked on throughout, and I'm always approachable if you have questions and stuff like that. There's links to ask that stuff. So, um, just so we can keep track of the time and get things going. I just want to dive right in, talk about a few things. So, like I said, thank you, Long McQuaid and Focusrite. A few things I want to say before we start is everything I talk about today or do or demonstrate on the computer. I'm using Focusrite hardware. I'm using the Red Series stuff, and everything that they put out. We'll be putting up links later so you can see some of the products and some resources that come with that for video tutorials and stuff to even help and support the stuff I'm doing here and take you even further. Will be in that link provided. So, but right off the bat, everything I'm going to be doing today, you'll be able to accomplish with any of the Focusrite products that are in that list. You'll see. Exciting thing about that is any of the interfaces that you might want to pick up, smallest to biggest, comes with free Pro Tools, which is great because that's what we're talking about today. I think it's a 3-month subscription, I think, for it. So, but there'll be more information on the link we provide later that has also the resources. But it comes other software included. Is I'm reading some notes here so I can remember. And Terry's AutoTune Access, Relabs 480L, which is crazy. Softtube, Jubilee Series, Marshall, XLN Audio Addictive Keys, Addictive Drums, which I also use, Brainworks BX Oberhausen, uh, 3 months Spice Sound subscription, Brainworks BX Console, Focusrite, phenomenal, Focusrite Red Plugin Suite, amazing, Brainworks BX Desk, awesome, Ableton Live Lite, 3 months like I said, there we go, 3 months Avid Pro Tools subscription, and Focusrite Plugin Collective, which is also phenomenal too. But anyways, that's all going to be, you'll be able to read that through again later when we provide you with some links near the end. So there's a lot of stuff I want to cover. It is the basics, and so um, to be fair to everybody that's in here, I know there's going to be some people that are intermediate to almost pro, maybe some pros. I don't mean to bore you up. We'll get to some questions as we go later on, but I just want to kind of rifle through some basics so people can kind of start to understand that it's everything we do is technically basic, and then once you've learned the basics, everything else is just your personal opinion, personal perception, or perspective of producing and what you want to hear. There's no right or wrong. Actually, I want to just talk about that for a second. And when I'm sorry, I'll try to preface this. I don't want to lose train of thought here. Okay, so regardless of what I'm covering today or whatever people try to tell you or teach you, which is great to get as much knowledge as you can, there is no really right or wrong, which I'll touch on again in a second. But first and foremost, the trick is it's experiment. Like, you're not going to hurt anything, and that's I've seen that all trying to teach people in the studios. Like, they're afraid to hit something because of whatever. There's really no way to screw anything up. Once you're in a session and you're recording, having fun and learning stuff, nothing's going to happen in a bad way. So experiment. Um, so what I also talk about, I want to talk about it quickly before we get into basics, is just concept. So whatever gear you have, whatever type of music you make, you got to remember the answer is never going to be found in the tools. The tools are just there for us to bring our vision to fruition. So Also, there are no rules in EQing, compressing, limiting, mixing in general. All you really need to do is understand what the tools actually do, which is we're going to talk about basics, which is pretty basic technically, and then apply them to create what we hear in our heads. So, whatever session I'm working on, whatever song, whatever genre, I'm never looking for the answers in the tools. I'm hearing it here, and I have an understanding of the tools that we have at our use now to get me to what I'm hearing in my head, and that's really what that's what I think you should strive for. And the only really way, a great way, um, is hold on. You know what? Let me just back up because I made a note here to give you an example. So years ago, when this was all very new to people, I had already had a huge history in computer music, which we won't get into now. But I remember at Sony, some great artists were bitten by the bug of using a DAW system, Pro Tools or whatever, and all the gear and the samplers and whatever. And they got so lost in the tools that their songs, and these are signed artists, I won't give you any names, but uh, their songs started to suffer. Their art suffered because they were looking for the answers in a system. And I kind of had to say, okay, put it away, get back to, pick up an acoustic guitar, play on the piano, get back to that first, and then use the tools to bring what you're hearing from that. So it's very easy to get caught up looking for the answers in the tools that any of these companies provide. Um, Again, it's get in and learn the basics, learn how to use the things. Again, one of the quickest ways to do that is pick a song you like, regardless of whatever genre you make. Pick a song you like, or maybe it's a song that isn't something that you normally listen to. Uh, Pick a song and try to recreate it just from scratch in Pro Tools or whatever you're using, and try to recreate it as best you can. And it's only for you, unless of course you decide to share. So there's nothing really to lose. Nobody's going to judge you, and so you just practice as often as possible. Try to do one a week. I have students I talk about just try one or two songs a week. Sit down and just it's going to be not great at first, but eventually you'll start to go, oh, I see, and then you'll start to figure out how to use these tools to get to what you're hearing in your head. Um, you don't want to sit there. I mean, you're just going to go and start sweeping and doing stuff and figure it out and go, oh, and then you're just remembering that's how you do that. How do that, and you'll start hearing the songs and go, oh, okay, I think I know what to do. So the more you familiarize yourself to the tools and what they're actually doing, then you're going to start to see it's really not rocket science. Like it's like if you just focus on one thing at a time and the tools that go with that, and then you go to the next instrument, you'll start to see, okay, well, this is starting to make a lot of sense. So, but again, I can't stress enough to people that um, my my success in the industry is predicated on what I think it should sound like. And so I'm never really trying to emulate other people. Early on in my career, I learned by trying to recreate things. And so that's why I just pass it on to you. So, but eventually trying to recreate those things, you'll go, well, I kind of like this better. And you'll just learn things that you like, that you're hearing, that you'll start applying into your own productions of your own original stuff or artists that you're working with or whatever. Um, so again, practice, practice, practice. And while you're doing that, if you get stuck on anything, like I said, I'm going to be giving you a link for some references for some things. But also, I know Long and McQuaid has some great videos in their vault. I think I'll see if Matt can actually share that link to a bunch of videos. Like, so there's going to be something in there. It's like, oh, how do I do the thing? There's probably a video in there. And if it's not, YouTube, we're all familiar with YouTube. There's tons of access to lots of information out there. But again, constantly remind yourself to take everybody's advice with a grain of salt. It's got to work in your world. But to understand a tool, sometimes you can find some really great. I know you can find some great tutorials out there. Um, I'm almost done talking. Blah blah blah. We'll get to some stuff. some advice I wanted to give to people out there wanting to dabble in making music or get better at it or become a little more professional. Um, some tricks or tips right off the bat, which somehow doesn't get talked about. If regardless of what computer you have, what's DAW, hopefully focus right, uh, it's very, very important that you always use an external drive for your audio. I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of time and energy creating something, but they've been putting it to their internal drive on their laptop or their desktop or what have you. Um, Audio files are very large, and a lot when you're working, you'll end up recording stuff and then erasing it, recording stuff, and that ends up potentially fragmenting your drives. And then your audio workstation is trying hard to find it uses space, and so I've seen a lot of people lose entire files because it was sharing space with programs. So number one rule of thumb, get a drive for your stuff. So before you start recording things, a couple of things is fine, just to mess around with stuff we're doing today. But when you're actually starting to work on music, make sure you're actually saving to an external drive, which I'm going to cover in a tutorial here for you. But drives are cheap, very. Um, Cheap, always back up your files. Trust me. That's the next thing I want to talk about. So I'm so vigilant in the middle of a project. If I'm going to take a break or close it down or move on to something else, or I just finished a vocal session, I back up. So I'm working on my own work drive. Then I'll back it up to an external drive and then another drive and then sometimes to cloud. I just don't want anything. My client, it's too important. There's too much on the line, and I always have to make sure. It's only had to happen to me a couple times where, oh my God, I've just been tuning a vocal for 3 hours and it's gone, and now the session won't even load. It's not you don't know sweating until that happens. So again, they're so cheap today. At least get a drive for your audio files and then a separate drive for backing up. Trust me. I hope you never have to thank me for that. Again, I even said backups can also be stored on some kind of cloud service, Dropbox. There's 100 million of them by now. And the last advice I want to give you, when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, technically, as long as you're not in the red, you're good. So don't be afraid to record things louder. Everybody talks about it's got to do this much or this much. It's like, as long as it's not red, you're okay. And even then, that accidents can happen. And that's how we find out things. So digital distortion is not too bad if you put it in the right spot. So again, I guess really what I'm trying to say is be fearless and experiment, that's how you become better at than most people. So just there you go. All right. So before I move forward to the actual setup, did this inspire any quick questions from anybody before I move forward? Okay, cool. We're definitely going to give you guys time to ask some questions. This basic Pro Tools setup that I'm going to go through with you guys is I'll be doing screen stuff, but again, Matt will be sharing you access to here you go, Cloudbase, a Dropbox folder that will have. Today I put this together for you guys so you can always have little cheat sheets about what I'm saying. It's a little more simplified. I'll be a little more in depth here visually, but at least it'll give you the first starting steps of each thing that I'm going to hit. Okay. So again, maybe hold off on the questions a little bit. I'll probably answer quite a few things, but by the end of this, if we haven't, then before I move on, we'll give you a chance. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about starting. Again, I'm going to make sure that we're talking a little bit like nobody's ever done this. And I don't mean to offend anybody that knows how to do this. Just bear with us. We'll get to some things, hopefully, that will help you. Let me just share this. Okay, I'm going to actually share this Pro Tools. So I'm going to close this one and start something brand new. Okay, and that made Pro Tools go away. Give me a sec, guys. This is not helpful. Share. We might have a glitch here, Matt. I seem to, every time I go to create a new session, it takes this out of screen share. One second. Yeah, that's the case. How can I deal with that? Let me, because Pro Tools is open, but it's not, unless there's a screen, it doesn't want to show us. Okay, so I'm going to have to, oh, well, I want to go right before that. I want to actually talk about creating a new session. This is what we're talking about, create new. Okay, so let me see if that comes up as a share. Hold on with this. Bear with us, peeps. Be right there. Yep. Okay. Pro Tools dashboard. Okay, at least I ended up having to skip a step. Anyways, in Pro Tools, up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see File. So this is all I did was select File and say Create New Session is all I did. But that it's actually in the notes. You'll see screenshots of this. So I only skipped one little stage. So right to our second picture will be this one. So what you're looking at here is this is creating a new session, and I want to focus on a few things. We'll talk about this section here where it says create from template. I had a discussion with this earlier today with somebody. We'll get back to this, but I'm just going to do quick starting a session so you understand the concept, and we'll go back and expand. Okay, so the first thing that comes up in your dashboard when you say create new under File, create new session, is you want to name your session for sure. The first thing I do, even before I name it, is I go down here to location. And this is very important. Again, hopefully you're going to be targeting an external drive when you go get one, if you don't already have one. So you pick your location. And as you can see, I have a work drive right here. That's my 2020 drive, all the projects I've got going. And so I'll target that. So I'm going to just hit open. And so now you can see here, my volume is Diesel, which is my nickname, 2020, well, I should say 2022, but work drive. That's that. And so when I hit create, it's going to create a whole, the session on that drive that I've selected. And the good thing about Pro Tools is when you create a session, it creates all the folders it needs under that name of a session. Most importantly, the audio files. So once you've created a session, it already knows to put any audio you record in the folder, audio folder, in that session. And I'll try to show you a screenshot of it as well. So, so there you go. So when we hit create, it's already going to create a whole new folder for the name of your song, which we'll call this. We'll call this L&M Focus. Oop, I can't spell. Focus right test. Oh, no, we'll call that session because it sounds way more cooler. All right. So that's going to be the name of it. I'm not going to hit create yet because I want to talk about this little section right here. Lots of debate about a lot of these numbers, or a couple of these numbers. I'll just go out and tell you right now. Again, a lot of people have opinions, which I'm sure you're aware of. The fights are about which sampling rate should we use versus in debate. I've had multiple top 10 number one songs. Every one of them was done at 44/24. So if it's good enough for that, it's good enough. Do I think the other ones are better? Maybe. I don't really notice a difference. I usually use 44.1 24-bit. And I had a lifetime of doing 44/16 in earlier systems and even less. So, but a lot of people record at 48 kilohertz. Some people at all of these, 96K, whatever. The outcome, you got to remember, the outcome is it's going to be here, like on this and MP3s and so on and so forth. So I think people get a little lost in that kind of stuff, but you're safe. A good standard is 44.1 24-bit, or 48 is often normal too, which I've used both. If I'm working with clients that have started a project, or if I'm mixing for somebody, I'll often get 48, sometimes 96. But when I'm producing from scratch up, I'm always picking 44/24. You can pick whatever you want though. The higher you go here, the more drive space you're going to end up using, and the harder your plugins are going to have to work. Some plugins now things are working a little bit more better into 32-bit floating points. But I think a good standard for you to start with and not stress about it too much is 4424. Because then if you make something, you're going to upload it to, let's say, DistroKid or any service that gets you to DSP for Spotify or Apple, or they're going to want 4424 or 4416 actually. And Apple sometimes wants 4424. So that's why, you're going to be downgrading it anyways. So this is usually high enough that you're not going to have any problems. I've never had any complaints. So anyway, standards right now for most people are 44.1 or 48 kilohertz and 24-bit. And all the Focusrite product and Pro Tools will support that. And most of the plugins, if not all, will support right up to 32 float and 96K for sure. But again, you're pretty safe here. All right, so I'm going to just create this session. We'll come back to talk about templates a little later. So I'm going to create that session for you. And I'll go back to screen share. See how that kicked us right off there, Matt? Weird. We'll have to talk to these people. Can you see that Pro Tools now? We're good? Okay, I have an extra screen I can check. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about now that we've created our session, how can I quickly show you? I'm going to show you what I was talking about. Bear with me because of the screen share. It's not us. It's this thing. Let me stop screen share just for a second. Okay, I'm going to go and load up. Let me just hide that for a minute. And I want to go to so many windows, I can't see anything. I'm just loading a file and I'll show you guys. Or loading a screen. Element Focusrite session. Hopefully I can show you this. Share. Let's see if this works, guys. Yep, beautiful. So I just had to set up. You guys are seeing that now? Okay. So if you see up here, it automatically, because I directed it to go to my work drive, which is mislabeled. It's just an old drive that got hooked up. You can see here now, it created a folder a few minutes ago. Let me expand this if it shows. I don't think it does. At 8:21. If I double click this, you'll see now I've got all these folders that automatically created for me. So there's my actual session. That's the Pro Tools session, which we're going to talk about saving multiples. It gave me the audio folder, that's where all the audio we'll record is going to go. And so we don't have to direct it anywhere. If you're in the session and you bounce something down, they've added this now where it actually goes to a bounce files folder for you if you bounce down inside your song. Clip groups, session backups, which we'll talk about. I want to talk about backing up stuff as well. And video files if you're doing any video post stuff, sound to picture. So it automatically puts it all in the right spot. You don't have to stress about, whoa, where did I put that guitar part? There you go. Let's talk about session file backups. This folder, if I have mine set now in Pro Tools, hopefully I can go show you with screen share to do that. You can actually direct in your preferences of Pro Tools to back up every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every hour. And it's a very good thing to have that because it's like an extra little backup. You're running a session, you forget to save, hit, Command S for like a half hour, and all of a sudden, you crash. Unfortunately, that session won't be there unless you had session backup turned on. Okay. So let me get out of that and see what happens if I go to, I want to go to Pro Tools. Okay, share screen. Okay, Pro Tools. Okay, here are Pro Tools. Under Pro Tools preferences, and unfortunately I forgot to add this to, can you guys see that screen or no? Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Share screen. We gotta work on that part. Share screen. Pro Tools. There you go. All right. So you can see it now. Pro Tools. We're good. All right. So, I didn't put this on the cheat sheet for you. I'll try to maybe add that quickly tomorrow or tonight and get so it's in the link. Um, Under Pro Tools preferences, you can actually go under it's under operations, I believe. Yeah, right here. Auto backup, right here. You can see I've got mine set, so it's enabled, so it's constantly doing it in the background. I don't even have to think about it. The 99 most recent backups every 5 minutes, so it'll save every 5 minutes whatever I'm working on without me even asking, up to 99 versions of it, and then it'll just start knocking them out. So you basically like, oh, my system crashed or whatever, the power went out. If you go back, you can actually open up your session. You'll see in the session backup folder, it's timed. Like let's say this crashed now, and I load, and then now it's 9 o'clock or nine, sorry, 8:32. I can see at 8:26 was my last backup, and it's at least you've got back to most of the stuff you were working on. You know, so but very important that you go check that out. I'm not sure if Pro Tools, when you install it and launch it, if it's automatically on. I don't think it is. So make sure you go in there, enable your session backup, and you don't have to put 99. I'm just crazy. So you can put whatever you like. But I mean, why not? You got the space. Just keep it that way. And there you go. Sorry, that's not in the cheat sheets. But I mean, if it's not in there later for you, you can always just YouTube, Pro Tools Auto Backup. It'll show you how to quickly do it. And Abbott's got Pro Tool, lots of video things to check out, as well as Long McQuaid and Focusrite. So there's lots of ways you can find the answers that I might not give you today. All right. I'm just getting my notes here. Okay. So, so we've created the session. All right. So next thing I want to talk about is setting a tempo. There's a couple ways you can do this. I'm going to go the long route. And also I want to point out as I do this, if you look like any program for Mac, like or any system, like Word or any programs, there's there's keyboard shortcuts. So up your game, the more like I'm so used to hitting even something like save so often that I'll be checking my email and I keep hitting Command S. It's like, no, I'm not in Pro Tools. Just get used to using them as much as you can. Um, but we'll talk about that as we go. So to select your tempo of the song, maybe you can change it later if it's MIDI stuff, but if it's audio, it's kind of difficult. So trying to get closely to the tempo hopefully exact the tempo you want at the start of the game. So under tempo operations, as you can see here, event, again, this will be in the cheat sheets, you'll see it. You just go down to temporal operations and you go temporal operations window. That's it. Select that. And that brings up this little bad boy here. You want to make sure it's on constant for just as you go. There's other things. By the time you're going to need this, you'll be knowing what to look for. So I barely even get out of this mode myself. So constant. And really what's important to you is right here, just this window here. So I'm going to keep it at 120 anyways, but you can change it. Just double click and 99 or 120. And whatever number you type in, it doesn't really matter. It won't automatically select it. So I'll go 120. It won't do that until I hit apply. So if I hit 121 and I hit return, it still hasn't done it yet. As you can see, the tempo is still 120 up here. I'll show you that. Sorry, so let's do 120 anyways. So 120, enter, and then I'm going to actually hit apply. And you know what? Let me just, so you can see how it changes up here. I'll change that to, let's say, 90 BPM, 90 beats per minute. Hit apply. Now you see my little thing here. It says 90, which is what we want. And I also want to just quickly show you an accident before you have it. If, let's say, you loaded the session and you're clicked over here somewhere somehow, you notice we're at bar 11 up here. If I go to do a tempo change, it's going to happen at that bar. Okay? As you can see, it's 90 beats per minute up until we get to here, and then it's going to change to 120. Very useful if you want to do tempo changes within your song. But to start it out, if you make a mistake, you can also just do this, highlight it, and hit delete. And so it goes back to 120. All right? So to make sure you're at the beginning of a file, let's say wherever you are, if you just, let's say I'm over here. I wish I had a track open. It makes it easier to see. But if you hit return, it takes you right back to the beginning. So watch this little cursor here. If I hit return, it takes me to the start. That way you know you're right at the start of the song. Okay, does that make sense, I hope, to everybody? Anyways, so we've created our tempo, 120. It's at the top of the song. Now that's one way of doing it. Another way, I'm going to drag this window down so you can see this. If you see this little man dancing, looks like he's a conductor basically, but it looks like he's doing some kind of dance. If you take him off by clicking it, there's a little guy there. I'm going to turn him off, and then I touch this number. I can tap T on my computer. So if you're in the room with the guitar player and it's like, let's get the right tempo, and you're jamming, it's I'm thinking of a tempo. Look how it's changing as I tap the T, and I'm going to go a little bit faster. And there you go. Now, that's to get the tempo. It will not set it for you. So let's just say that song is 161. All right, well, cool. Well, let's go back to there. See, it automatically went back to 120. So I'm going to clear this again, just to be sure we're good. I'm going to go create tempo. And we tried 161. Make sure you're selected here, that they're bar one, beginning, and then hit apply. That's it. And then I hit that and then apply. So now you see 161. So this is a quick way to help you find a tempo of a song. I think there's a way you can actually, if you tap it and just leave this guy off, it'll be whatever tempo you set. But it's probably better to keep it as an actual number in your session. All right, so I'm going to go ahead back and just change that to 120 again. Just so, whatever. There we go. So you can see that's changed. And of course, it's showing you the tempo here as well. So you're set. All right, we'll be talking about bars and beats in a second anyways to kind of give you some pointers in that. So this is the transport, by the way. I'm just going to move that over here. You can float it out of the way. We're done with the tempo. Get rid of that. Now let's move on to, okay, we got our tempo set. How are we going to hear this? Like, where's a click? Now, this I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that the program I'm going to show you, or the plugin I'm going to show you, comes with Pro Tools. And Matt, maybe you can confirm that for me. Okay, so all you're going to do, we're going to talk about making tracks in a second, but I'm going to go the long routes for you, and then I'm going to show you to always look for shortcuts. So I want to create a new track. It's a click track, or it's a guitar track, or it's a vocal track. Think of it that way. You always know to look under track. And we want to make a new track. Well, there it is. Under track, new. If you can see, the quick keystroke is Shift, Command, N. It's that simple. So you can rifle up quickly this way, the long route or whatever. Now, that brings up this window here. And what we want to do is the click plugin that comes, I think, with Pro Tools, which Matt is going to try to figure out if that's true, it's an instrument. And so we have a couple options under creating a new track. Do we want routing folder, basic folder, audio track, auxiliary inputs, which I'll try to get to some of that a little later, master fader, VCA master, MIDI track, and instrument track. A lot of people get confused between these two things, MIDI track and instrument track. This is primarily if you're going to be driving external units. This is easy. That's what you're going to use that for. But there's so many virtual instruments in Pro Tools these days. You're probably going to be hitting this a little bit more than most. All right. So the click track is an instrument plugin, which I'm going to show you. So you're going to select, it's mono. You can still run it stereo, but it's a click track. We'll just go mono. So you're going to create an instrument track. And this would be the same if you wanted to do an organ, a virtual, like a some of the plugins that come with the Focusrite, like the drum stuff. I can't remember which one it was. Addictive drums, rather. You would also just create an instrument track. All right. So some people like to name it right off the bat. Just always try to name things as you're going, because there's nothing worse than looking at 50 tracks of audio and they're called audio 1 and audio 24. It's just much easier if you keep coding, color coding, I'll show you, and also naming. Get on it. So right off the bat. So we'll just call this click 120 BPM, beats per minute, and hit create. That's it. So now we have this instrument track. Now we have to apply the plugin, whether it's the drums, keyboard, virtual guitar thing. I don't mean amps. I meant like samples of guitars. So you basically go under your insert here. This is the three things you're going to mostly use all the time. I keep all three open. And you can change the view of this, which I'll try to get to some different views. But this is where these two things here, inserts A and E and inserts F to J, that allows me to put 10 different plugins on that track. And then these sends are if you want to send to reverbs, et cetera, which I'll try to cover a little bit later. All right, so under insert A, this is A, B, C, D, E. We're going to go A. If you go under plugins, a nice thing about Pro Tools, when you get the plugins that come with it, whether it's to the Focusrite or you purchase from whatever source, hopefully Long McQuaid, it automatically puts it hierarchically. That's hard to say. Which you can see it's either under, we'll be talking about what these are, dynamics, EQ, so on and so forth, but separates them into types of plugins, which is very handy. So you can see I have an instrument, and this is automatic. I didn't have to do this. And they also went as far as to say, well, we can also collect them under manufacturers. So if you notice, like any company I have here, Waves Audio, it shows me all the Waves plugins I have. That's everything that they make. As you can see, is quite a bit. And but that's all their plugins. Some of them are compressors, some are limiters, some are EQs. That's why it's broken down into. But if you're looking for a quick something and you know who makes it, it's much easier to find. You understand? So, but that's neat that it's already done for you. All right, so enough with me talking. Let's go to instrument. And this is Matt's on sidelines over there. This is the one I was talking about, the Click 2. I think it comes with... Okay, beautiful. Yay! So all you do now is you click 2, and automatically this little bad boy comes up. And your letter, that's it. You're done. And as soon as I hit play, that click is coming from this little click plugin. So you're ready to go. And you can change the click to eighth notes. Of course, I don't use this, but I forget how to do that. Again, whatever. You'll figure that part out. I create my own clicks, which we'll talk about a little later. But in a pinch, this is it. I've had to use this before, just a quick quarter note thing to track a demo or whatever. At least it's quick on the go kind of stuff. Also, I should say, sorry? Oh, does it? Are they hearing you? Oh, say that one more time. Sorry. Here. Oh, well, look at that. Matt just showed me. That's been looking at me for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Look what he said. So let's undo all that. I'm going to delete that track and let's do the Matt shortcut. Thank you, Matt. Under track, create click track. I'm excited now. There you go. So there's your next trick. So long route. But again, going through there's the quick way to do click, but to load an instrument track, now you know how to do it. It's the same. Because this might not be click. We might want to use, let's say, a piano or something. That's where you're going to find it. And it's the same process under track, new, select instrument. And if you're constantly using the same instruments all the time, we're going to talk a little bit about templates, whether it's before you load this or how you load the session or create a new session, or when you're in a session, you can have your own templates that you can call up at any time. So all shortcuts. The computers have made it really easy to do what you just saw happen. So there's two ways of getting a click track. All right. So we have the click. There you go. So now you can put that out through your speakers or headphones, play some guitar, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about recording. I'm sorry, I just don't want to get ahead of myself here. All right. So again, we're going to record a vocal track. Okay. So again, it's under track, new, and again, Shift, Command, N. Again, get used to them as you go. So new, and of course, we're going to record audio. So you're going to select audio track. I'm going to name it Jeff Talk. It's a new hit song I'm working on. It's mono. Hit create, and that's it. It's that simple. Shortcuts, like I said, Shift, Command, and we'll bring up that same dialog box. And there you go. Now, at this point, I want to talk about, before we get into how to record, you need to figure out what's coming into that track. And that's right here under your input section. Mine is, if I open my interface, it shows, I've got them all renamed. I track a lot of drums. I have a whole drum room here. So I've got them already listed for which microphones, for which drums. But this particular hi-hat 13, I can actually switch up here to use a microphone live, which is what I normally do. So I'm going to select, I think stock, it's going to say audio input 1, 2, 3. This is something that you're going to have to customize, and everybody is going to want to do it differently. This is something that a good tutorial after this will help you. Once you launch your system, you can go and name all your inputs you want. And that's done in Pro Tools here under Setup, which, sorry, this is also not in the cheat sheets, but again, you'll be able to find this information should you need it. So under Setup, I/O, which is input and output. As you can see, I've got my inputs are labeled as such. So I went in beyond that. I've created names. How to explain it to you? Sorry, buses. Here we go. Where did I do it? Okay, I don't want to get caught up on this too much. So basically, you can name them here and they'll show up that way unless you want to change it, which is a whole other situation. I don't want to waste time on that. But so for what we're getting to recording, I know that this is my mic pre right beside me here. So, which is this microphone. So I'm going to select that. You guys are going to hear a bit of a slap back because it's sharing with Zoom. But just to give you an idea of what we're doing, I can select this right now. Can you hear me? Again, now you're hearing me louder. Yeah, it's a weird face. But that's just because you're hearing Zoom audio through this mic as well as Pro Tools is now recording it. So, and you're hearing the output of Pro Tools. So basically, so you pick your microphone input. You'll see technically usually comes up audio 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Usually something like that. So it's been so long since I changed these. I don't know what the stock is going to come up, but it'll be pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll see if you've got a 2 input interface, you'll see your 2 inputs. If there's 4, it'll show you 4. They kind of all marry together very nicely, kind of plug and play. But anyway, so now you need to pick which input you want to use. And so I know this is the one I want to use. And there we go. Now, it's very simple. All you do is hit the record button. So now you hear me. I'll talk about what this means in a second, but that's really all you need right there. So now I can hit record. And a few ways we can do that. I'll introduce you back to this thing again. This is our transport window. Some people like to play the buttons. So they're pretty universal, like any audio, like even your iPods. Some of them are the old ones. Everybody knows this is stop, square. This is play. The red dots record, and these are fast forward and rewind, etc., etc. So Can't get too lost there. So literally you can just hit record. And that's not working. Why is that? Oh, why are we not working? There you go. That was weird that my transport didn't work. Matt, you got an answer for that one? I've never seen that. Yeah, no. I'm saying there's a couple you can do. I was going over the options for people. So yeah, so control space bar will start it recording as long as you're armed here. You can stop. I'm going to undo that, or you can hit number 3 on the keypad. Is also will put you in record. But I'm saying those work, but this doesn't. Duh. See, I never used this. There you go. I thought it would automatically. So my go-to is. Oh yeah. No, of course. So basically, the 3 ways you can hit record on this is hit the record button and then play with the mouse. I'll stop that. Undo it. You can hit Command Spacebar. Also, I'll erase that. Or you can hit number 3 on the keypad. All of those will kind of get you going. All right, so I'm going to now hit record and I'm going to talk, blah, 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 blah. This is a thing, and we're recording stuff. This is a terrible song. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. And of course, that's it. We're done. Record and I'm going to talk, blah, 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 blah. This is a thing. Okay, so now you're recording. And if you don't want to hear that awful click track, record and I'm going to talk. Just mute the click track after you're done. That's simple. We'll talk about, well, there you go. Muting. I can stop me. Record and I'm going to talk, blah, 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 blah. All right. I can also solo me at any time. Record and I'm going to, when I say me, this could be a guitar part, keyboard part, whatever. As it's playing, let's say you've recorded multiple tracks, which we'll talk about. At any time you record and I'm going to talk, solo, blah, 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 blah. That was a little thing. See, I'm just so used to doing things quickly. This little solo button, I'm going to deactivate that for a second. So now if I play both, record and I'm going to talk, I can blah, solo blah, just my vocal. Blah, 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 blah. This is a thing. I can just solo the click. So we'll get to solo and mutes and multiple track stuff in a few minutes. So, but anyway, so we've got basically a track now. So let me just see how we can make use of our time here. Undo. All right. So again, I said to you earlier, you're not going to screw anything up. You're not going to hurt anything. And don't be afraid. It's simple as if I recorded something just like that. I'm going to put it in record. I'm going to click track on and hit record. I'll mute this so it doesn't feedback. 3, 4, boom, 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 boom. Okay, I'm a little hot there. I should probably turn that down. Doesn't matter for now. And we don't like that. Boom, 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 which I don't. You can just undo it. Just like any other program, whether it's a Word document or any kind of workstation. If you're on Mac, it's just Command Z. It'll undo the last thing you just did. So you're never really committing unless you really want to. So make mistakes, experiment, you're going to be fine. All right, so that's creating one track. Before I move forward, if let's just say I want to punch in, if and do I want to get that complex yet? No, I don't. I'm going to talk about the insert button a little bit later. Okay, I promise. But for now, that's that. So here we're going to go one. I'm going to record something. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Beautiful. Cool. I can loop that later for you. Now, we've done that track. Now, let's just pretend that was a drum part. And now I want to record a guitar over that. Or whatever the case. We're going to do mouth instruments today. Again, just like I showed you how to create that click track or even this track, same thing. Track, new. So we're going to overdub. Again, look over here, Shift, Command, N. Always keep trying to learn those as you go. Not that this is a long place to travel, but the quicker you can get to things, the better. All right, so let's call this guitar. Okay. Again, always try to name things as you're going. You can always change it later if you have to, but at least you're not going to get a lot of stuff that says, see, if I don't do that, it automatically will call audio file. There you go, audio one. And so sometimes I get files to mix or something, and there's like audio one through like I don't. It's so hard to figure out what's what. You got to go play things. It's nice to have it named, because you'll notice. I'm going to undo that, so I can get rid of a track. Undo record. No, I didn't do that. I just want to delete that track. I can just delete this track by holding over top of it. Right click the mouse and hit delete. If there was audio on that, like this one, this is a good thing. It helps you don't screw up. If I try to do that same thing again, right click on the mouse and hit delete, it's going to tell me, track contains active clips. Do you want to delete it? Oh, no, don't want to do that. And that's actually, as silly as I'm making it sound, has saved me a few times because I've made a mistake and I went to erase the track. I didn't mean to. And it told me, gave me a heads up. All right. So I'm going to go create a new track for our whatever. We'll call it guitar. And that's it. I named it. And now it's an audio track. So what we want. And hit create. And there you go. Now it automatically puts it past after the last track that was highlighted. And you can change that too, but stock, I'll show you again. I'm going to delete that. If I was up here, it's going to put it between these two tracks. So if I just hit new and guitar, we'll just call it audio because I'm going to erase it. Notice how it pops in there. So whatever, when you create a new track, it'll put it just after the last, whatever you've got highlighted. Hopefully that's not too bad. Makes sense. But another quick workaround, if you make that mistake, is I want it up there. You can actually physically grab it, click down, hold down, and you can rearrange your tracks. So again, just to let you know, it's going to put it right after whatever you've got selected. So, all right. Now I didn't name that. So another way you can name it, if you forget and you hit create and you forgot to put a name, you just double click right on top of it and you can rename it. So guitar. There you go. And again, we need to pick our input. In this case, I'll use the same microphone. I know it's on that input. And we can now overdub. I'll mute this so we don't get any weird phasing. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Whatever the case. There you go. So now we have two tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Look, I'm hitting red. That's because my mic's too loud for Zoom. Sorry, guys. I don't want to change that on us, but there you go. So that's how easy it was to create two tracks. And then you can keep going on and on and on. I think it's 64 tracks for Pro Tools 12, unless you go to the ultimate. 64 tracks is more than enough. So you can go on to quickly create as many tracks as you want, and so on and so forth. And I don't want to miss anything about that. Arming the track, create a new track. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. Now, I'm trying to condense it so we can just kind of talk about the basics. So this is now, that's enough. So let's just pretend we've got 20 tracks of stuff. Now what we can do is I'm going to, I might lose this again because it's screen share. Let me just see if it keeps it. No, it doesn't. Okay, so I'm just opening up just a quick little toggle of command equals or plus sign. Am I sharing? It's not sharing. No, I'm going to share you right now. Just a quick switch of there's a couple windows in Pro Tools. So what I did is quickly, I could have, because of screen share on Zoom, sorry guys, I can't change that. I'll have to quit flipping back and forth. This screen you'll automatically see if you would hit command plus or command equals on your keyboard will show you the mix window. And so basically what you're seeing here is there's our click track. That was my first recording, and this is the overdub. And of course, now you actually have faders that you can move around quite easily, and you'll see all your faders. Let's say we had 20 tracks here. I'll open up a bigger session in a few, so to give you a better outlook on a look at what this looks like. But basically, you'll have the option to go and see the volume on each in relation to each other, as well as panning, which we'll talk about, and so on and so forth. And then also does show you stock, will tell you what plugins you have. Without getting too complex, under view, right now I'm in the mix window. You can actually choose what to look at in the mix window. So maybe I don't want to see the comments, or I want to see comments. What was displayed already? Let's see. Mix view. Let's say I don't want to see inserts F and J. Gone. So it helps you save some room. This is the comment section down here. So you can customize your mix window and the edit window. And I'm going to go back to right now. Sorry, screen share is going to stop again, guys. Sorry. I'm going to go back. Okay, I thought I could go back from there. There we go. And go back to here. Oh, I wasn't screen sharing that.
No, you weren't.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Let me just show you quickly anyway so you can see what I was talking about. This was the mix window I was talking about. Sorry about that. I thought you were seeing it the whole time. Again, you heard what I said. So basically, if you had 20 instruments, you'd see 20 faders. And so you can balance relation. It looks like you're working on a desk. And of course, it shows you the inserts that I was showing you. There's the click and whatever else we have. It will show you this. You'll see bigger versions of this as we go. So I'm going to stop that and go back to Pro Tools main window. And again, toggling between this window, which is called the edit window, and the other one I was just showing you, which is the mix window. It's easy. Just Command plus. It's like really quick to work with. I work with two monitors usually, so I can see my mix window on one screen, my edit window on the big screen. Some people use like 4 screens. They got tons of different stuff going on. Sky's the limit, pretty much. Anyways, okay. So what was I going to get to? Yes. So you don't need to be at the mix window to see volumes of things. As you can see, there's a numerical value here showing you volume. But let me go to my first track here. If I click this little thing, this little fader here, that brings up the fader just for this channel. As you can see, it shows me the name. And of course, I can move the volume up and down from here. I can change the panning left or right. And there's some other options later when we get into automation stuff, which might be a little too heavy for today. But you can control a lot for each channel without going to the mix window, is all I'm saying. If you don't have 2 screens or you don't want to keep flipping back and forth. I often, sometimes even if I have the mix window open on my other monitor, just below this, right down here, I'm still constantly clicking up here sometimes for this, just out of habit. So, because I just want to change one thing real quick, rather than going down and looking at 30, 40 faders and trying to find that one quickly. All right. So again, you can change your volume here. Quick little tip. Most of the things in Pro Tools or most workstations, they default, like let's say the volume is at 0 here and the panning is at 0. If you happen to change it here and you go, no, actually I kind of liked it in the middle. If you hold Option and click it, it resets it back to its default 0. Same with the volume. Let's say it's here. And now I want to put it back up to 0 or start from 0. Again, Option, and then just click right on the little fader and it pops back up to 0. So very handy. You'll see why that's handy later in your world of so many tracks going on and you want to group things and start at 0. It's very handy. But basically there's a quick little way to get to a fader of any track. So you don't have to select this, which can be confusing sometimes. Right now you're looking at Jeff Talk. If I want to look at the fader for guitar, you just click the one right beside the guitar. And make sure you're just looking at the right name. And you'll see that's for that. And you can see it physically changing the volume right here as I do that. So, and this is something, it's more advanced and we won't get into today, but when you're mixing and playing around, you can actually automate that. So as it's playing, you can literally take the fader and move it and it'll remember every move you make, which is very handy. For vocal moves or string lines, you want them to fade in and fade out. But again, just experiment, have fun. You can't hurt this thing. All right. Sorry, it's 9. See, I could talk for hours, kids. All right. Before I move any further, Matt, do you want to? Is there any questions we can address here? Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I just turned the screen share off. 1 second. Oh, this is. Sorry, guys. Okay. And the chat. Aaron Roder. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Rodier. Aaron Rodier. How do you train your ears as to understand what's the right sound or mix is? Thanks. Um, like I said earlier, I'm not there. There are no rules, and this is what I'm trying to say. You can learn how to use the tools by mimicking other people, but really there's no right sound or right mix. It's like I could, I mix most of the singles, if not all of the singles I've produced, but there are outside mixers, and even though I'm providing the same tracks, whatever, their mix is going to be entirely different from mine. It's like very different. It's not that it's worse or better, it's going to be different. And so there really is no real or right sound. That's kind of my short answer to that question. But you don't want to put stuff out that sounds like, garbage. But I think if you're into music, you kind of know what you're hearing. And so you can always take the time to just, you know, check it against other things. Like you can now take your iTunes, you have a bunch of songs that are, you love that are other artists, then just shove yours in there and then start playing this one, play this one, and get to yours, and then this one, and go back to yours. And you can kind of see, am I on the mark? Am I getting there? That just to kind of get you like, that you feel like you're part of that world, but don't ever strive to be like that world. It feels like, okay, it's not quieter, it's not louder, it fits wide, it's a thing. But again, it's up to what you want it to sound like. So if art's good, it's art. So I don't really, there's no really answer for that question. If, however, we are, for me, going to radio with a lot of my artists, there is a lane that I have to respect, but I still push the boundaries. I still don't do it the way other people are doing it. And that's what sets me apart, even a little bit, is by not following the rules. So there is no right or wrong. Hope that helps, Aaron. Bobby Lopez, budget priced overhead mics. Yeah, that's a very, it's a personal opinion thing. I don't really have an opinion on that. Often will, whether I'm recording here or other outside studios, I think every time I've recorded, it's different because the player, the drums themselves, how high their cymbals are versus how high their toms are. So there's no real answer for that. There's a lot of great, just like a lot of my friends, and if anybody has questions about mics and stuff like that, a lot of my friends are like, I have a lot of friends that are in the recording departments at Long McQuaid in several stores and in the pro department. And when I need a question answered about, I need to do X, this, that, what do you think? They give me great advice. And so even though I'm a pro at this, sometimes I get some answers from them. So microphones are very, it's a personal taste thing, like I've put up microphones and go, oh, I love that. And the head engineer that I've hired goes, I'm kind of not loving that. Let's try something else. And it's just sort of, it is situational. So there's no real answer to that. But man, microphones have come a long way. There's so many great companies that are affordable that, um, I recorded on mics that are lower budget mics compared to like state of the art stuff or old vintage stuff. And sometimes I go with the cheap guy because it just has a thing. So it is situational and it's whatever works for your ears. Like I know people that love this microphone for vocals, and then this person who's had just as much success hates that microphone, wants this microphone. Again, it's a personal thing that you'll just kind of grow into it. There is no right answer to that question. So uh, I think any reputable brand that Long and McQuaid would carry, they're not going to carry stuff that's not going to work for you, especially nowadays. It's like because the alternatives are there's lots of them, and just talk to one of your people there, and they'll help you out. Hope that helps, Bobby. Um, Amina TB, when learning using Pro Tools, is it great for entry level? Thank you. Wait, when learning using Pro Tools.
Is it a good entry level program?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, um, what's good about it is it's literally is very industry standard, regardless of what anybody says. So most of the file sharing I'm doing is coming in Pro Tools sessions, but we kind of all play well together. So if you're going to learn on something, maybe we'll learn on something that is prime. It's pretty big industry standard. There's great ones out there. Uh, I think um, with my knowledge that I'm handing to you, plus the text and everything else, you kind of got to jump anyway. So, not that you could port some of these concepts to any DAW, but I'm giving you lessons in Pro Tools. Um, I certainly suggest it to my clients, artists doing their home studios. Just get Pro Tools. We're good. I can teach you. I can help you. There's lots of stuff out there, and it's definitely going to, help you make your project work. So, yes, definitely great for entry. Um, Carnival. Do you ever think it's too late to begin recording yourself? Do you mean? Do you ever think it's too late to? God, no. Are you kidding me? No, not it. If art is art, and if you make art that connects to people, you could be 70, 80, 90, whatever. It doesn't matter as long as it's good. And if you elicit some kind of response emotional, whether they hate it or love it, you've done something. That's art. I mean, if you look at it from an artist's perspective, it doesn't matter. It doesn't no. It's never too late. Ever. So there you go. Definitive answer. Um, 40 School of Music. What do I need to record several instruments at the same time? Okay, good question. So in the PDF that Matt from Long McQuaid will be sharing with everybody, there is all the different Focusrite interfaces. So basically what you're asking is you need to record several instruments at the same time. There's several ways to do that. It depends on if you want individual control of every instrument, then you're going to need more inputs. And of course, um, most interfaces out there are in groups of 8, technically. So, um, you might need 2 or 3, depending on how many instruments. So if you got 16 microphones, you're going to need 16 inputs, and that will dictate what interface you're going to need. So if you want to record everybody at the same time, stereo, then you just need 2 inputs and 2 microphones, and you're good. But I'm assuming from your question, you want to individually record whatever. At the same time, you're going to need however many instruments, you're going to need that many microphones. Or if it's so it's a school of music, I'll just pretend maybe you're dealing with maybe a small orchestra. You got violins, violas, whatever. You could have a couple mics on the violins, a couple mics on the cellos, a couple mics on the violas, and so on. And so then you're capturing sections, not individual people, which could drop the amount of inputs you need. But generally speaking, when you start getting into multi-track recording, which is what you're talking about, you're going to need minimum 8. So, and they only come, well, I mean, they come in 2, 4, 8 seems to be the jump in my mind. So you'll probably end up using 2 8 input interfaces, which is not like compared to what it used to cost to do 16 inputs of audio. Yeah, it's definitely affordable. And I think that, again, the PDF that Matt will send has a list of all the interfaces. You're going to need minimum 8 to 16, depending on how many. So I can't really totally answer the question because I don't know how many instruments you want to record at the same time. But sorry.
Talk to your L&M guy.
Yeah. Again, yeah, that's another thing too. Recording guys, anybody at Long McQuaid, they can answer these questions quite well. If you go, hey, I didn't get the quite answer. I've got to record 12 kids. Well, you're going to need minimum 2 interfaces. either 8 and 2, 8 and 4, or 2 eighths. So sometimes it's good to get 8 and 8 because then you can grow. So again, talk to somebody in the recording departments there. If you're not quite sure still, then they'll definitely help you find the right thing. There you go. Okay. Hopefully that helps you guys. On to some other stuff. I want to talk about now. Let's see. I want to, so bear with me, guys. Just trying to find some of my notes here. Where did I put it? So I'm going to be super organized for you guys. Here we go. All right. Okay. What I'm about to say is actually in the cheat sheets for sure. I want to just get away from recording for a second. I want to just talk about things that you're going to encounter. I can probably, so you don't have to look at my face. Let's go to the session I have open. All right. So, a couple things I want to talk about, basics of everyday plugins that I use all the time and you will use all the time, and everybody that does this uses them all the time. The three major things, two major things would be compressors and EQs. And I just want to cover the basics of what they mean and how they work. And so you can grow from there. So again, like I said earlier, I think verbatim, what did I say? I'm never going to find it again. Basically, like basic tools are basic, and it's how you apply them and use them that changes the product. There's no mystery once you understand the basics of something. The rest is just experimentation and how much or how little you use, but they're always doing literally the same thing. So once you learn how to use something, then you can experiment and go crazy, try stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about are compressors, but without getting into a whole audio or acoustics class, I just want to talk about dynamic range. And some of you might know what that means. Some of you might not know what that means. So basically, dynamic range is basically the level between the loudest and quietest parts of an audio signal. You can go loud, you can get soft, whatever. That difference is the dynamic range of that said instrument, and all in the varying levels of from nothing to loudest. I wanted to explain that because really the definition of what a compressor does is it reduces, technically we're using it to reduce or alter for that matter, a signal's dynamic range. And so I've got a few diagrams I'm going to pull up, and you'll see these in the notes that you can download later. Basically what a compressor we're using it for primarily is to attenuate, which means you're going to hear attenuate from people. It's a fancy way of saying turn it down. It's basically used to attenuate loud transient peaks. And let me just screen share a different. Wish you could just keep. It'd be nice if you could just toggle through, Matt? Like different. So now I have to go load that picture. Give me a sec, guys. I'll be right with you. Bear with me. Bear with me. Got to close folders. Okay, they seem to be open. Why are they not showing up? Screen share. All right, so let's talk about what I was talking about with compressor. I'm going to load this little diagram right here for you. Let me just check my screen to see if you see it. All right. Okay, so basically when you start recording, you've probably seen some recording. It's very common to see this kind of thing. It's a waveform. People use them as logos now. It's a waveform. So let's just say that was me clapping. Okay, so 1, 2. That's what it's literally going to look like. Or if I go 1, 2. So this peak is the t. Those are basically your transients. That's another word you're going to hear a lot. Or no, you need to know transient. That's the attack of an instrument with its, claps, guitar, drums, whatever the case. And this is what we're trying to control. So what we're trying to do effectively when it says to turn down or reduce the dynamic range is that you can see that this is loud and this is not loud. You see what I'm saying? That looks loud. This does not look loud. And so what a compressor we're trying to do is turn down the loud so we hear more of the not loud. Okay? So, and it also keeps it from potentially peaking or distorting, so on and so forth in your mix. But for the most part, what we're trying to do is condition the signal that from hitting here to before we hit the next one. Let's just use this second one here. So from hitting here to, let's say, about here, feels like it's one volume and not this big smack and then noise. Or if that, hopefully that makes sense. So let's just say it's a guitar. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me show you another picture what I'm talking about. So this is just showing you reduction of, I wish you guys could see me at the same time. Oh, okay, good. Like we want to shut down the transient in the situation, but maybe we'll want it to do more. So let me see if I can change the screen share live. How do I do that on Zoom? I'm just going to hit stop and just collect a new one. I'm going to go to this one here. And then I can actually maybe describe the whole thing a bit better too. So as you can see, it's very much like the first picture I showed you. This again is we're going to be literally turning down the first attack and then it releases. So it feels like this isn't any louder than this. Hopefully that makes sense. And of course we can go on. I'm going to talk about the controls and actually physically show you, or in an audio session. You can actually choose, okay, we want it to smack and stay smacked and then let it come back up. So this now starts to sound from here to here, sounds like it hasn't gotten quieter, hasn't hit you first and gotten quieter. It's all very smooth. Of course, this is dependent on the instrument, but for the most part, the concept is literally we're trying to make a very consistent sound throughout the waveform rather than it'll make a little more sense when I open a session and show you, because it helps you balance things a little bit better, like drums, vocals. It's like somebody sings really loud and they're too quiet. This allows us to kind of get the quieter stuff louder and the louder stuff quieter, sort of kind of leveling it to some degree. And that's really all the tool is. You know, here's a good way of looking at it. It's like, imagine your vocal, your music or your guitar is a big transport truck. We don't want the whole transport truck coming out the other end of the bridge. So let's lower the bridge so it shaves the top of the truck off. Literally, that's what the compressor is going to be doing. Now, how fast do we want it to work? Well, maybe we make that bridge start as high as the truck and slowly slope down so it squishes the truck. That's which I'm going to talk about. So use that picture in your mind that we're driving a truck through a bridge. How low is the bridge? How right off the bat, how low it is? Does it start higher and gets lower so it squishes the truck? Just use that picture in your mind when I'm actually in an audio session to show you. But basically that's in a nutshell what a compressor is doing, but you'll actually hear it and see it working in a second, because there's a couple different things that you need to look at with the compressor. But the compressor concept is literally we're attenuating or turning down the dynamic range of the instrument or the singer or whatever the case. Let me turn that screen share off again and go to another PDF or picture I've got. I'm going to just jump a little ahead here before I go to Pro Tools and physically do something. To get a little more mathy math about what I'm talking about is we have an input level of, let's say it's, okay, how can I put it? Okay, this scale just makes sense. Okay, so if you go 1 to 1, it's not doing anything. So for every, basically this is in voltage, basically, so for, or dB. So for every 1 dB of music or audio coming from the track, if we put a compressor on it and don't do anything, it's 1 to 1, doesn't really do anything. 2 to 1 means for every 2 decibels of audio, it's more voltage, but we'll get decibel for now. For every 2 decibels, it's only going to let 1 decibel out. So it's squishing it down. It's half as loud. Again, same thing here, 4 to 1. So literally for every 4 dB coming in, it squishes it down to 1. And then there's infinite, which is when we get into limiters and stuff, I'll explain the difference between a compressor and a limiter very shortly. Most compressors give you quite a huge range from, let's just load one up just to show you what I'm talking about. Sorry. Okay. Share Pro Tools, which is not coming up. Pro Tools. There we go. That's not what we need. Sorry, guys. One more time. Share. I apologize again. The screen share option is really weird on Zoom here. All right, so here we are back into Pro Tools. So I'm just going to load up a basic compressor. What can I grab here? Let's just use, what do I normally use? I'm going to show you this one here just for now. This is a standard compressor. So that ratio I was talking about, that 2 to 1, 4 to 1, so on and so forth, that's your ratio. So on any compressor, you're going, okay, for every 1 dB or 2 dB in, it's going to only let 1 through. So I'm going 2 to 1 there. Then I can go anywhere from all the way up to, oh, look at that, 50 to 1. So that's pretty squishy. So to kind of give you a picture of what that does, let's start at nothing. Sorry, you're going to have to hear me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to talk about threshold in a minute. Let me just set it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 1, 2. So you notice 4. Nothing's happening. 2, 3, 4. Even though it's I'm telling it to. Let me change that to 2 to 1, and you'll see my voice gets a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll go back. I'll go even further. Let's go down to 4 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Hopefully you guys are hearing the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Let me change the attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Versus nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I'll slowly move it down so you can hear. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's basically leveling it out to the point that it has no characteristics, louder or softer. It just squishes it. I'll hit this again when I open a session with drums, and you can hear them and see how it's really affecting it. But let me just talk about the basics. All right, so we have a ratio. I'm going to set this back to normal. Okay, so I'm trying to think of some ways to explain this with pictures in your mind as well. All right, so the threshold, what that means is you're saying, when do you want the compressor to start working? At which level? So as you can see, when I play it, 1, 2, no matter what I set ratio or attack or release to, it's not doing anything because it's not hitting the threshold. 1, 2, see, 3, this is showing 4, me how loud 1, 2, 3. If 4, I want the compressor to start working, I need to 1, 2, find a threshold. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you notice my 2s and like the t or the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the top of my words you can see that are 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But not the decay of the 1, 2 that drops. You can actually physically see it drop. So maybe I just want to control the 2, 3, those things. 1, 2, 3. So I can set 4, my threshold 1, 2, 3, 4 to just hit it if it's getting too loud at that spot. And I'll pick, 3 to 1. Again, this is up to personal taste, whatever instrument you're working on. It's the same operation for anything. How much of a threshold you set, how much ratio, attack, and release depends on what you're looking for it to sound like. So if I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, now you see 2, it's actually 3, 4, doing its job. 1, 2, 3. This meter is showing you how much it's actually taking away. 1, 2, or reducing. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, So now we've set where it starts to compress, which is what it's doing here. So it's starting at that level. Anything that goes past minus 20 dB here, it's going to start turning it down. Okay? Now, how fast do you want the compressor to start turning it down? This is, think of the truck going under the bridge. Right now, it's sloped. The attack is late, which means it's going to let some of that stuff through and then start working. If we want to start quicker, you're going to take your attack to go further, which is like taking that bridge, and entrance to that bridge is already too low for that truck. Make sense? I hope. So automatically, 1, 2, it's three, working. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But now release. You won't really hear it on the vocal, but let's just say it's a snare drum or something you want to have a little more bloom or kind of carry on a little bit longer. This is where you'll do with your release. Okay. So it can be quick release. So it's automatically, this is how fast it resets to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So if you don't want it to catch 2 or 3 transients in a row, you can always release, turn your release up. So it takes a little longer to reset to do the job again. Basically, that's what a release is going to do. Again, I'll try to do it on a couple sounds to make a little more sense to you. But literally, every instrument is going to require different approaches to compression, but it's the same 4 parts. Threshold, when do you want it to start working? How much do you want to turn it down, which is your ratio? How fast you want it to start working, which is your attack? And when do you want it to reset to do it again? That's your release. Okay? Hopefully that makes a little better sense for you. All right. Now, before I move on, in the diagram I showed you before, when you saw it, like it shut it down, stopped it, and then slowly brought it back up. That's that release part I was talking about here. So you can, which will make sense when you hear it on instruments a little bit more. But again, same 4 things always: threshold, ratio, attack, and release. That's all you're going to be doing with the compressor, unless there's fancy schmancy stuff that they add. Saturation and a few other things. Those are all different things. That's kind of like compressor pluses. But the compressor concept is all you really need to grasp. The rest is all, again, personal preference. Now, some people like to say, well, whatever you take down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If I've set my ratio to here, 3, 4. Maybe I should bring my gain back up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You could do that. 3. Sometimes I do. If I drop it 3 dB, I'll bring it up 3 dB, the output of it. So it's now the lower stuff is as loud as the beginning stuff. Basically, that's the concept. Hope that didn't talk over you there. So, all right. So the next thing, much like a compressor, if you notice you can change and set it. You'll hear stuff about limiters. And a limiter is kind of like a compressor on steroids. It's basically, let me just load just a stock limiter here. What happens with a limiter is it's a compressor that's already kind of set to pretty much 20-1, sometimes more. And then it's like you're compressing on top of an already compressed thing. So again, it's a matter of just setting your threshold. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's to get this a little more signal, I'm going to turn this up. I should show you that little trick later too. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now that's compressing already. Even if I put this at 0, it's literally compressing. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can hear that it's compressing. 3, 4. If I want to compress it even more, then now it's going to start working. 1, 2, 3. And I control that by changing my output ceiling. And then again, you also have a release here to when do you want it to reset? Again, a limiter is literally a compressor that's already set to stun, basically. So, and they have their applications, much more in mastering. I use limiters often on my tracks in the multi-track just to even out a guitar part because it's a little quieter in sections, or this chord doesn't seem as loud as that chord. I can use it to just kind of, again, I'm attenuating the dynamic range. So I'm squishing how loud to how soft it can be. So instead of this, I'm going to be doing this. So it can't, more this actually. So, and then turning the whole thing up. Hopefully that makes sense. Confusing me. But basically, compressor limiters are pretty much the same thing. Start with the compressors, understand it, and go, well, I'm not going to smash this 50 to 1. I'll use a limiter. But start there. There's less, you're going to get less noise, and so on and so forth. All right, cool. So, okay, I'm hurrying. EQing, quickly, I want to talk about EQing. The best way to, I don't, like, every plugin is kind of doing the same thing. Their algorithms might add or subtract something to it, but an EQ is an EQ is an EQ. And just think of this like your car. Or if you had the old radio, or even the old iPods where you can change the EQing. In iTunes, you can change the EQ. It's literally all you're doing is, in this case, I pulled up a 5-band EQ. And what that means, let me just set these here. Think of like your car stereo where you have bass, mid, and treble. That would be bass, mid, treble. And then we have variations in between. But because it's a computer, we're like in a car, bass is set that you go, I'm going to turn the bass up. That's turning up from 0 hertz to 20 or 200 hertz. And then your mid button, if you have a mid in your car stereo, that's, again, it's taking a range that's in the middle of the audio signal and turning it up or down. And then the same with the high. It's the high mids to high stuff. You can turn that up or down. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. People doing it in their cars. It's like the big smiley face EQ. It's like lots of bottom, lots of top, and it's like very little mids. That's just EQing. And so literally don't get scared of this stuff because it's no different than your car. I want to turn the bass up. So I'll turn the bass up. There. Now it's starting to look like your car stereo. There you go. Oh, I'll just use that one instead. That doesn't matter. There's lots of different curves, but technically we're just doing the same thing. This just allows you to be more accurate. And now this is your car stereo set on the big smiley face for whatever cool tunes you want. Lots of bottom end. Literally, that's every EQ. Just think of it like your car or your old home stereo, the home stereo your parents had with the knobs, low, mid. If you're a guitar player, you're already familiar with this on your panels of your guitars. You got, or on your head. Bass player, same thing. You know how to control those EQs. These are identical, but you're just applying it to individual instruments to taste. And again, the taste is not, it's only dictated by you. If you want your guitar to sound like this, where there's no top end, if that's what you want to do, that's what you're doing. I'm not going to say, oh, you should do, you're EQ'd that wrong. That's up to you to decide how you, it's like a flavor to taste. There's 10 different cooks. They're going to make the same pasta dish. They're all going to taste different because they're EQing it different. This is it. So this is kind of like our spices we're adding to individual sounds to bring out something, take away something. Oh, the singer's kind of nasally, so I want to just take out the nasal in their voice, which is about here. Gone. So again, it's about adding or subtracting stuff that you don't like. So literally, an EQ is just an audio filter that allows you to isolate certain frequencies and either boost them or lower them to your taste. Again, be fearless. Take it. You'll hear with things like sweeping EQ. So let me just shut these off. You can literally, if you're not sure and you go, something's bugging me in the sound of Jeff's vocal there. Let me shut that off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me turn that click off. And I'm going to loop. I wish we could add 10 more hours, guys. Sorry. I love helping if I can. 1 second here. I just want to change my grid because I can't see. There we go. I'm going to loop me. Again, we didn't get into those basics. I'm going to loop those 2 bars that I just selected. Just by under option, loop playback. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe there's something we don't like in my voice. 2,
3.
You can actually turn an EQ on,
3, 4.
pick how wide of a frequency
1, 2, 3,
response.
4.
This is like
2, 3,
sort of
1,
mids,
2,
sort of
3,
highs.
4.
And I can just sort of sweep,
3,
turn it
4.
way up.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
That's annoying.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
Let's say that's what we hate.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
I can just take it out.
3, 4.
Tiny bit.
1, 2.
Not like
3,
this.
4. 1.
Unless I want that.
3, 4.
But then I can widen it so it takes more of the frequencies around it out.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then that helps me
3,
fit that
4.
singer.
1.
That helps me fit that singer into the mix of all those instruments. That's what this is used for. We're trying to take away things that we don't like, or add more of the stuff we like. And again, it's seasoned to taste. Mix engineers, I could put 10 in the room. People would say, well, I would do that. I would take away what was bugging me. Whereas someone would go, no, we're going to put that off and add stuff around it. Everything we like, except for that one. You see what I'm doing there? I'm just literally sculpting the audio to enhance everything I liked about it, except for what I didn't like. And some people think that brings more energy. Again, it's all I'm trying to think of the right word. Yeah, additive, subtractive. It's a war that's been long fought. There's no war. You don't need to fight it. What works for you, if you're taking away something you hate a little bit, or enhancing everything you like and not bringing up what you don't like. It's the same. People think it brings in energy. I don't really notice that. So it's, again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's all I just want you to see the basics. So when it comes to EQ, no matter how many tracks you have or whatever you're doing, don't be intimidated. It's literally like your car stereo EQ. So you're basically carving out that one instrument at that time to get it to fit and play nice with all the other instruments. And so that will take a long time and a lot of experimenting to find your sound. But one good tip I can give you really quick is every instrument. I think if you go online, I think I found one for somebody. If you go instrument frequency responses, I think that's what it's here. Instrument frequencies, you can find charts that show you drums, bass, guitar, where their natural, coolest, more the frequency range of that instrument that is pretty much the most pleasurable part of the instrument, the sound, the frequency response. And from that, you can start seeing, well, what should I be EQing or pushing up in more in my mix? And so they can be very helpful to help you understand what EQing is doing. It's like, oh, well, the human voice. So I'll give you an example. So I'll use the human voice. Our ears are the size of them. Our voices have a peak. Everybody's voice peaks between 2 to 4K. And it's because of the design of the ear and a whole bunch of things. That's just the human voice has a peak. Its most natural peak is there. Could be annoying. Maybe there's too much of it. You can take it out. Some people have that too much of it. But technically, that's what I'm talking about. Where a guitar frequency range technically goes from here to here. A violin's range is from here to here. And that's will help you understand how to EQ things and pull out the sweet spots or get rid of the annoying things of every instrument. So go and find one of those. I know Matt wants to wrap this up. Let me ask, we got time for some questions or anything, Matt? Show them one more thing. Oh, right. Okay, show them quick.
Do you have your session loaded?
Oh, yeah, let me go open a session up. Okay, I'm just loading up something for all y'all. Close. We don't need to save that. That was a terrible performance, Jeff. Counting like that. Open session. Okay, so here's a song I'm currently working on. So it's in. It's not ready for the world, but you guys can hear it. It's fine. Screen share. Of course, it's not going to load the session yet. There we go. Just want to make sure everything's working. I go back to here. Share screen. There you go. Okay. When you we can see that. Okay. When you're, as you can see, I talked earlier about being vigilant in your naming of tracks and color coding. As you can see, it's really nice that Pro Tools does this. Let me just explain a few quick things. As you can see, all these blue tracks here, I know looking at them, that's the drums, because that's the color I use for drums. You'll get into habits, just the way we are. It's like, you use blue for drums? I use purple. It's going to happen. But as you can see on this down this side over here, what Pro Tools allows you to do is group things. And I'll get rid of one just to show you how to do it. So let's get rid of the drum. I'm just going to delete that one. Delete that. And you'll notice they should all go gray. No, they didn't go gray. All right. So basically, in this multi-track here, I'll solo. Here's live hi-hats. And there's the live kick. As you see, I'm soloing over the side. That's the kick drum out microphone. Oh, other things I'm going to show you to maybe help you navigate a bit more. If you go under View, Edit Window, you can, View. Yes, View. Oh, what do I want? No, Clip. Under Clip. Under Clip, I want to actually see Clip Name. And that'll show you the names right here on each track. As you can see, I did that. So you can see now I was talking about the different drums. Let me just expand that a bit to show you. So you can see the names. So now you can see I can scroll and I can see there's the hi-hat, there's the kick in, kick out, snare drum trigger, snare drum. So these are all the individual mics we're hearing. The bottom of the snare. And the list goes on and on. Then we've got overheads somewhere here. So this is a live kit. Anyways, so that's, what I want to do is, like, now that I've balanced them however I want, I can now create a group. And groups are very good when you're mixing because it allows you to deal with things like packages. Like I want the drums up, down, or the bass up. And so if you kind of group like things with like things, it can really help your mix. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to select from the hi-hats all the way down to the rooms. That's the entire drum kit. And then I can either do a couple ways. I can group up. The quickest way is Shift Command G, my bad. That's to turn on and off. If I want to create a group, it's just Command G. So I select my tracks right here, all the ones I want, by selecting the first one, hold Shift, go right down to the last one, and hit it, and it selects them all. Or you can do them individually. Let's say I didn't want this one. I could select this one, that one, maybe every other one or something, depending on what you're trying to group. But I know the drums are from here to here. Let's even that little sample. So Command G brings up this box. This is create a group. So I'm going to call this drums with a Z because I'm cool. Drums. And boom. So now what happens is if my grouping is on, if I hit solo on any one of those drums, it all solos the drum kit. So while I'm mixing, so example, it's like there's the song. It's a country song, by the way. I can quickly solo the whole drum kit just to make sure it's balanced. I can actually, maybe I want to mute it. As soon as I hit mute, it's gone. So I'm hearing the other tracks. I might want to adjust things. They'll pop the drums and go, yeah, okay. Oh, I can hear the guitar now. And again, grouping really saves you a lot of time down the road, especially trying to find things. And so as you can see now, where are my shakers at? Well, I've got them grouped. See, as soon as I touch it, you can see down here, shakers. That's this track right here. This group right there. Cool. Now, besides that, grouping, what I said about color coding, so you can, now that I have this group, I can literally, because the group is selected, and I have all 4 channels, if I double click to the left here, this will come up and I can change the color of the group. There's the color of the group, but then I just have to double click on here again. Oh, sorry, let me go to this group again and see that orange there. If I hit hold, then I can double click on the actual audio regions and hit that same color. So now it's the same color. So you can, so I like to have it here, but sometimes people just like to have the group colors represented on the left side here and just have regular tracks like gray. So again, total preference. You can make your own colors with the things, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So grouping, again, I highly suggest that. And as you can see, look, all the tracks are named. I wasn't lying to you. So having good organization is going to send you a lot, because you're trying to figure out EQing and compression and all that. At the same time, you're trying to find the thing you want to EQ and compress. If you haven't labeled it, it's like you're looking at all these would say audio. And trust me, it's not that easy to find something sometimes. So cool. All right.
9:45.
All right. Okay. Let me get out of this mode. Okay. All right, cool. Jim again. If you have time, I would appreciate hearing about what you do differently for your radio mixes. I don't do anything different. I mix how I mix. But to be fair, earlier on when I was at Sony, we had a mastering department, so I never mastered my stuff. But so I mixed. Sorry. It's more in the mastering than it is mixes. So radio is sometimes these loudness wars that are going on, so you need to get nice, quick, nice, loud levels. I don't really think it's less of a mix than it is mastering. And so even though I'm mastering my own stuff now, when I'm mixing, I don't have mastering stuff on it. I just mix till I like it sounds good to me. And then I master accordingly. So if it's going to be going to radio, I might squish a little harder. Or if it's just on an album release that's not going to radio, I can have a little more. Again, when we're talking about mastering, that's compression, limiting, etc., etc. And those are altering the sound, and they're changing the dynamic range. And so if I want something that has a lot of depth and movement going in terms of loud to soft, loud to soft, I don't want to squish it with mastering. But for radio, I kind of have to. So I would say that's more of a mastering thing than it is mixing. Okay? Again, hi, Amina. What inspired you to get into mixing and recording? I don't know. I was a musician for years. I was signed to a label when I was young, made records. But because I knew technology, I ended up starting to produce more. By the time I was 20, I did like 200 plus movies and television shows. And I just sort of kind of got into because I had to get it done, I mixed it and recorded it, and it just sort of blossomed into it. So it was no inspiration other than it was just like, oh, it's time to put this hat on. I just kept learning as I went, and it just sort of, now I'm doing this for a living. So, and I just love music. And I've always wanted to go, oh, I want to make it sound like that. I want to try. Remember I talked to you earlier about practice trying to mimic things, like build it from scratch, because that's kind of exciting. I was like, oh, I want to know how to make it sound like that. And then I learned okay, now how to make it sound like that. I'll use parts of that on this project that I'm doing and learn some tricks that way. So it was more, I think, not really one thing inspired me. It's just I love music and I like to make things. I have a famous saying that everybody knows. It's like politics, the industry, I just want to make speakers move. That's all I want to do. And the more I can make speakers move, the better. And why not do that by not just producing and tracking, but mixing and recording. So, all right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope you learned something. And again, thank you to Long McQuaid, Matt as well. The whole staff, they've been helpful for so many things. And Focusrite, fantastic. Thank you. You're saving my bacon every day. I turn the stuff on to work, and it's been great. So thank you for having me on. And there you go. So Matt will send you a PDF or a link to a Dropbox folder with PDFs of cheat sheets of creating the tracks and so on. And hopefully that helps you out, guys. Have a good time. Make some music and make some speakers move.